to. I don't want you, don't need you.
Hello and welcome to the third half. I'm Scott Hamilton. Today's guest is a proper star of British theatre, award-winning playwright and librettist April De Angelis, whose work ranges from historical drama to contemporary theatre and even opera. April, how are you?
I'm really well, and I'm really happy to be on your programme, Scott. You've said that's me, what you've just said. I mean, what more can I say? I've been working as a playwright since I was in my sort of mid-20s, which is like 40 years ago. I know, shock horror. And I've kind of like bumbled along trying to keep going, which I think is what a writer has to kind of do. It's like you have to try and find a way of keeping yourself on track, keep finding what's exciting and makes you're curious about. Try and keep writing. I can't imagine not writing now. I think I've become like a bit like a machine, and I can't stop. But I don't want to.
I find this fascinating as a writer, and I didn't think we were going to start here actually, but whenever I talk to people, whether they're in music or theatre or writing or whatever, how do you program yourself to do it? Do you get up in the morning and you think, right, I fill my flask with coffee, I go out to, I can't remember, it was at Roald Dahl says I go and sit in the bottom of the garden in my shed and then write. And what happens if those creative juices just don't happen to be flowing that day? Do you just go in for a walk along the beach or something?
Well, I mean, I sort of tend to, why not walk along the beach? I mean, you've got to kind of treat yourself with a bit of care and not think, well, I've got to be sitting at my desk. You don't have to be. You can go to an art gallery, you could have a conversation, go for a walk. But I tend to sort of like think, well, I should research something. I need to read. I need to stimulate my brain. I need to go to the library and read something. And I'm hunting. It's like being a hunter. You've got to hunt down your subject. So, I mean, I wish I was better at just relaxing and like letting stuff happen. But but it is true, you do have to get up. And sit down and write. I mean, that's what a writer is in a way.
Yeah.
You just got to do, it's almost like, it's just a practice. It's like a muscle, and you've just got to, I really trust the unconscious, or that there's something in you that you don't know about that needs to be written. And I think if you just go great and you trust that that's there, then that's the way to go, I think.
And do you have moments of inspiration? Are you a yellow sticky person or a voice memo person? You'll be in the middle of your shop in Waitrose or wherever, and you'll say, "Oh, I've had a thought, I've had an idea, a new idea. Better get that down."
I do think, I mean, it's very interesting because the word inspiration literally is like a breath, breathing in to inspire, isn't it? It's to take oxygen in. And I sometimes feel like if I'm stuck, I'll just literally stand up and move around and go and do something. And of course, that kind of gets the oxygen firing round, and it is literally inspiration. And then you often do get like, oh yeah, of course. Or you relax and you just come away from something, and that relaxing kind of somehow allows a new idea to happen. I think it's also about for people that are starting out, like not being afraid of your ideas, because I can remember like you might have an idea and sort of like think, oh no, that can't be right. That's too extreme, or you sort of sanitize things. And of course, those are the ideas, so not to be, I suppose that's the other thing. You've got to be sort of awake to. I hope, can you hear my dog barking and whining? Sorry if you can.
I love a bit of background effect.
Really? Can you hear it?
No.
Oh God. Oh, that's good.
It's fine. So and actually, so I think this is again really, really interesting, because like I think we're brought up in a no idea is a bad idea, right? So you have an idea and you think, right, I'm going to write that down. You start to progress it, but you need to kind of do a check and balance at some point.
Yeah.
Ultimately, is that going to be publishable, interesting,
Absolutely.
sellable, marketable? And then you don't want to get to the kind of finale of the opera or whatever like that and think, oh, actually, this is a load of old poo,
I know. I think that's true as well, because I suppose that's a kind of counterbalance to what I said. I mean, I read the biography of Tennessee Williams recently, or not that long ago, and he was every morning he'd get up and he'd have, oh my God, I've got this fantastic idea for a play, and then he'd write all day, and he'd wake up next morning and go, no, that's shit, he'd like throw it away, and he did that so much, and I thought that was but my God, that's incredible because it's Tennessee Williams, but I think that was his way of kind of generating material and then like having an objective look at it, where to, and I think there's got to be, that process has got to go on. I mean, when has an idea got legs, I mean, the other thing about it's hard about being a writer, I think, is that when do you know when something is a good idea and when it's not? And what if it's the only idea you've got? Do you know what I mean? I mean, how did it, and then when's another one going to come along? Should you invest in this one? These are all the questions that make writing like, well, that's that's kind of the deal. The deal is it's not going to be sitting down every day and going, oh, this is fabulous. I love this. And this is such a great idea. It's just so not like that.
So, hey, listen, I've got an idea, and you might already have done this, but okay, and I'm not looking for any credit for it here, but keep a scrapbook of the 426 unfinished works of April De Angelis, okay? And at some point, I've got a kind of Vic Reeves or Jim Moyer, the artist Jim Moyer, where I'm sure he started a lot of paintings and then he just puts them aside and then he'll publish a book at some point. Keep the unfinished works of April De Angelis.
God, that's so good.
I will.
They're all on my computer. Sometimes I'm like scrolling through my computer, and I was like, what is that? And it'll be like a title. But obviously I was working on for 4 days. I thought it was great. And I've like, then on the 5th day gone, no.
but you could have listen, this is great. I'm spitballing here. I'm now excited. You could have a chapter 1, the stories or the plays that didn't get beyond the title. Chapter 2, the second act. Chapter 3 nearly hit a finale, and you could actually do a little sub note to each. I can hear your dog now. A little sub notes to each of them. They're just saying, "This is why I binned this one," or something like that. Or somebody said, "Nah, April, that's a load of old cack."
Do you know what though? I just feel sorry for the people who've got to read it. You know what I mean?
It'll be a Christmas special. It'll be like, we'll be selling it by the millions.
Yeah.
So listen, I read you started actually as an actor before you became a playwright. So how did that transition happen, and what was the trigger for that?
Okay, before we start, do you want me to try and do something about my dog?
No.
Okay,
Listen,
good. Okay, so how did I start? Okay, well, I sort of fell in love with theatre at school, in school plays, and I was like Toad in Toad Hall when I was about 12, and I was like, this is brilliant. I love the rehearsals. I loved everything. And then I just thought, well, that seemed to be the answer to everything. Because I thought, how do people have jobs? I thought it seemed really grim having a job. I don't know why, like a job you didn't like. So I was like, what is the job? God, you could be an actor. What a great job. That was literally my thinking. And also I just loved, being in plays. I loved the world of rehearsal, the kind of intensity and the friendship and the excitement and the first night and the costumes. I mean, it just was like, this is amazing. But so for quite a long time, that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be an actor, and I went to university, and then I went to drama school for a year, and then I started the business of acting, and then but somehow around that time the penny was starting to drop. That A, I wasn't that good, and like B, I didn't really, weirdly, after wanting to be it for such a long time, I didn't really want to do it anymore. And then it just came to me that what would make me really happy was if I was a writer. But I just thought, well, that's ridiculous, because everyone wants to be a writer, but just forget it. And I forgot it for about 3 years, and then one day there was this competition. Someone gave me a leaflet. There was a competition for women's playwriting competition, and I just thought, well, I actually a little voice came to me which says, if you don't write, you won't be happy. It just like came into my head, and I was like, that's weird. and anyway, I entered this competition. I ended up like being a winner of this competition. It was at the Deptford, Albany Empire Deptford, and it was you got £400 and you got your play professionally produced. And I was like, that's amazing. And then with my £400, I bought an electric typewriter, and that's how long ago it was. But I had my play. I mean, it was just amazing. And then from there, because I'd been an actor I was acting at the time in a women's theatre company because I was, very passionate about women's theatre, and they commissioned me, and that's how I started.
Oh, wow. And so interesting, having been an actor and becoming a playwright, do you think that, and I don't know is how common that is, but does that help you in terms of your writing? So you think about actors when you're writing, you think absolutely to the end product of what that's going to be like on stage, and almost like a little bit immersive. We talked about Jumpy and Hillary on Monday. Did you have Jumpy moment, or did you have Hillary moments, sorry, when you were writing Jumpy?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing it might do is because there are people that aren't actors that are wonderful playwrights, but they're also the opposite. They're people that have gone through. I'm just thinking about, being actors first. I think all it just gives you is this real sense of, from inside, what it's like to be a character, what it's like to play someone else, what it's like to be in front of an audience, what audience is like. You can't bore an audience. You have to kind of keep them on their toes. I mean, it's very interesting because an actor, sometimes you do something that surprises yourself, and it works. And it's that feeling that you're when you're writing something, it's not, you've got to be alive in the moment to what can surprise you. And you also do, yeah, you have a sense of, I mean, plays are about relationships and different characters coming to conflict with each other's, what a character wants, what they're going to learn, what they're going to discover, all the things you need to know about a character as an actor, you need to know about a character as a writer. So I think that's, those things, I just think it's really helpful to have done it. And I don't think I would have ever thought of writing plays in a million years if I hadn't been an actor for a while, and therefore actually sat inside a play and been inside its machinery and understood it from the inside, you know, like what a privilege that is. So yeah, I mean, it certainly, it also makes you fall in love with plays, which I think you have to do.
Absolutely. And listen, we'll come on and talk about the range of work, but again, you've hit on something there that's quite interesting, and maybe it's linked back to that, having been an actor and talking about characters. Do you tend to start writing with a character in mind and build out, or is it
Yeah, I think that's
an
right.
image, or is it an event, or we'll come on and talk about some of the work, but what's the
Yeah,
kind of
I
genesis
mean,
typically?
yeah, I think you have to go with character. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for every writer, but I think probably, you're looking to really get inside a character to really find the way they talk, the way they think, what they want, what's funny about them, what's dangerous about them, what's disturbing about them, whatever. I mean, you want a character, in some way you want to challenge. You want to challenge people's sort of accept sort of feeling. I don't know what the word is actually. What do you want to challenge about people? Their complacency, is that a word? I don't want to be horrible about people, but something, their accepted understanding of what the world is. Somehow you want to turn that on its head when you're writing a play, I think. And characters are a way to do that. Um, yeah. I
I
mean, I was just thinking about Chekhov, like, I was one of the first plays I was in at university was The Three Sisters.
oh yeah.
And like, it's such a wonderful play, and obviously, but the kind of melancholy or that play induces is really, it's quite disturbing, isn't it? That there is no, it's just suffering. You just have to suffer. I mean, that's not how we like to look at life. So Chekhov is kind of like saying, well, this is life in through his eyes, and it's a challenge to us, I suppose.
I think there's something about, and I talk about this quite a lot in a number of different discussions that I have about what drives behaviour, right? So this kind of, we think that every decision in life is just made by some automaton. Well, sometimes it is actually. But what drives people? What drives character? What is the backstory? And when I started doing this, and it was a kind of long chat about sustainability. And again, we'll come on and talk about climate and sustainability. But people forget that something created the people that make those decisions, right? So what is the backstory that drives things? And I think that's what I love about theatre and drama and good writing. It's like whether it's as a tee up or whether it's after an event, you get to really understand why a character is what a character is. And you're really right, and I think brings that out with some gusto.
Yeah. Yes, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because what drives I mean, it is. I mean, I think, I was thinking there's Ibsen plays on at the moment on BBC, and BBC kind of all this whole Ibsen season, and he's so interesting about, I was thinking about the Wild Duck, what drives those characters to, create that tragedy. But also, I mean, I think what's kind of harder to get at as a playwright is you can look at individual psychology, which of course is so, I mean, that's what you've got as a playwright. But there's also there's bigger things that drive people. Like there's big systems as well that we get caught up in. I think they're quite hard to, I've started to think, Trump is not just kind of he's also a kind of product of a system as much as a product of his father and his mother and his school and a kind of wealthy class of, that he's part of. He's also this bigger kind of system that has produced, and history that's produced him as well. Otherwise it would be very simple, wouldn't it, to just go and just get rid of, I mean, I don't know, that's a question for playwriting in a way, that's a bit more, I am sort of a bit puzzled about, like, how do you show that bigger system? Although, there's that play Mackinac. I don't want to keep talking about plays if people haven't heard them, but maybe that's a play or a Brecht play that might try and look at a system more. I don't know. But yeah, back to your original point, of course, that is what's fascinating about people anyway, isn't it? Even in meeting them in life, who are they? How did they get to that point of, when it's really interesting when you're having a conversation with someone and someone reveals something about themselves in some way. And it's like, the penny, I mean, it's, if you're human, you can't help but be curious about those things, can you?
Yeah, I love that. And you've actually sparked something with me here. This is really interesting because it's not just the gene pool. It's not the kind of necessarily just the, how shall I say it, the immediate nurture of who's around somebody. I love that. It's the system. The system is such a big influence and creator of characters, fictional, real life, and everything. And that's, to me, if I build that out, it's that whole backstory. And as a playwright, when I go and see theatre, I love, well, why did they do that, or why did they behave that way, and what made them make those decisions? Good characters, good characters, good people, bad people, whatever, in fiction and in real life as well. So you've written across so many different ages, from kind of historical pieces and through contemporary pieces. And then, as we were chatting on Monday, libretti and opera. And how has that kind of progress changed over time? Has that been because April has changed, because society's changed, life's changed, your interests have changed, or has it been something different that's prompted that to move within different time periods, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, it's hard to say, but I think, like, with history, for example, for whatever reason, I was really sort of fascinated by history when I was a kid, but not really. I mean, I didn't study it beyond A level or anything. I think it was absolutely incredible and brilliant. And I was sort of, and I think, when you write, it's true. I think people write their obsessions, I think people write what obsesses them, because that's, when you write something, you're putting such a lot of kind of focus and energy into something. You've got to really be passionately fascinated by it. So I think it was sort of natural that I sort of, because history had been such a, I used to collect I had a collection of Tudor postcards that I started making when I was about 10. It was like really stuff like that. So I think that it was natural that maybe when I started my first play that I wrote for this competition was called Breathless, and it was set in a 19th century sort of Gothic house between a servant and her mistress, and they ended up committing parricide, sort of thing. I mean, that was my first sort of play, and it was like a template for it.
Blimey.
They mummified him, because I don't know why they did that, but that, because I can't remember now, but yeah, and then yeah, but as time goes on, you can't. I think you have to sort of, respond to how you're feeling at the moment. I mean, when I wrote Jumpy, I'd had a daughter, she was a teenager. It was my life was really like, a lot about bringing up a teen, suddenly having a teenager who's about to leave home. And it was such a big moment in life. I'm sure you've experienced that, because I know you've got a teenager or a daughter. Who's left home, at least one, I don't know, but it's massive, and that became, as well as questions about feminism, that became Jumpy, because that was, I'd experienced so much of that. It was like bursting to come out. So there are plays like that, and they don't come along very often, because if you think about these really kind of a threshold moments in your life, then they're not. You're not having them every day because you'd be exhausted. But they make good plays. So that's a kind of, that would be an example of, why you write something at a particular time.
Do you think everybody watched Jumpy thinking, oh my God, that's so my life?
I hope so.
As I said to you, when we were chatting the other day, my wife actually played Hilary in the local theatre group, and so not only did I live Jumpy when I watched it, thinking about my 3 teenage kids at the time, and 2 of them being girls, but also I lived it when she was walking around the house reciting all Hilary's lines for about.
My God, you've really had to live it, yeah.
That plays in my head forever.
Oh, I apologise.
Oh no, please don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's right. When you write a play, you want to make it kind of have a relevance to people. Recognition is this big word. You want people to recognise, because that's part of their investment in a play, and they recognise elements of their lives or their thoughts or experiences they've had on a stage. Then the play, it can work in a more powerful way for them, because they've invested in it and in the outcome. And that's what you have to do. You have to make people care about what they're watching. Otherwise, they're not going to, number one rule, otherwise they're not going to bother.
So great. And okay, let's use that as a bridge, because I do want to talk about some of your more recent work around climate and sustainability, because that's a big part of what I talk about in the podcast, and quite a bit of your recent work has moved in there. So what, without asking the very obvious question, what sort of pushed you into exploring climate through theatre and productions and writing like Extinct?
Well, I can't remember my reasons, but in 2019, I went along to a meeting of Extinction Rebellion. I think it was just it must have been kind of low-level anxiety I had around the climate, and I'd been sort of member of Greenpeace and stuff, and I just thought I'll just go to this meeting, and I thought there's going to be like me, 5 other people and a dog. That's what I thought. And I turned up at this meeting, and it was the second day. They had to do 2 meetings, one on the Sunday, one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday, and I went on the Sunday, and it was just absolutely rammed, and it was sort of took my breath away, because I was like, oh my God, there are all these people that are concerned. And then we had there were discussions about the climate, and then we got into kind of groups, and we decided there was going to be this plan that we were going to have a rebellion. And it was like so sort of like wow, it was really exciting and really sort of sobering. And I was in a group with some schoolgirls because we all got into these groups. And they said this thing, they said, well, when I die because of climate change, I just want to know, I don't want to die knowing I didn't do anything. And that was like my moment of like something really changed because I just thought, oh my God, it this is so serious, and these you can't leave young people just face, we've all got to do something. It was just sort of their clarity and articulacy that sort of changed me, really, I think. Okay, so then I joined Extinction Rebellion, I got involved, I've done a lot. I took was there for the rebellion for 2 weeks in London, and then I joined my local group, which was amazing. And we did lots of stuff. I mean, it went on. I mean, there was so much that happened that I don't, but so then I became sort of, I learned, the other thing people said is you've got to read, you've got to educate yourself if you want to be a climate activist. So I read as much as I could. And then, the pennies drops even more. It's like, this is a terrible crisis. And it's, as we can see now, because I'm talking, this was sort of, what is it, like, God, is it 7 years ago? That's incredible. But look, look what the weather was happening, all over the world, extreme weather events. It's not a mystery anymore, or it shouldn't be. So that's how I got involved in the Green Movement. And then that, of course, so I wrote Extinct. It was in the lockdown, and it was a kind of quite a polemical piece in a way. I mean, it was like a kind of about the climate, and maybe it was. I mean, it had to be a one-woman show, and it had to be. That was the parameters of it, and it was Kieran Lander, this amazing actress, played this. I don't know how she did it, but she done all this stuff in like 3 weeks and did this show. And she had to have various characters. One of the characters she played was a journalist in Bangladesh who's going back to visit her grandmother, whose land is being flooded, but because of the encroaching sea levels and stuff. And so and she was just playing a character that was like me. She was like going between these characters. Anyway, she was brilliant. And so that was Extinct. Do you want me to go on a bit more?
No, no, carry on. Yeah,
And then after Extinct, the next thing I think that I did was, okay, the next thing was an opera. So then I got asked to write with Jonathan Dove. He got approached by a man called Jim Potter, who was terminally ill, but who woke up in hospital one day and went, I want Jonathan Dove to write me an opera about climate change. I want it to be for young people. It was like it came to him, and he gave massive amount of his life savings to do this. And Jonathan got Glyndebourne involved, and he asked me because he knew I was involved in climate activism, and we wrote an opera called Uprising that had a chorus of over 100 local people, and I think 80 of those people were young people. And we wrote this opera that went on at Glyndebourne at the beginning of last year. It's a year ago now. Which subsequently, we won an Ivor Novello Award for, which I didn't even know there was such a thing. It's now called an Ivor.
An Ivor.
An Ivor, which was brilliant. And I think brilliant because it was like a recognition of this, that it's, the climate crisis is incredibly urgent and needs recognition, even more recognition that it's got, sort of thing. But also it was wonderful to see all these young people and the community, along with the professional singers, kind of create this opera and Jonathan's music is tremendous, just brilliant, that we'd written. So that was the second thing I did. And then just more recently, literally earlier this year, and I can talk about it now because there was a sort of an embargo on talking about it because it was still a case that was live. But 6 medics broke the windows of JP Morgan Bank, and JP Morgan are the largest investors in fossil fuels. Since the Paris Agreement, they've invested $382 billion in fossil fuel extraction at a time when we're supposed to be heading towards net zero. But it's profit, it's a bank. And these medics who were worried, they were on the hottest day of the year in 2022, the hottest day there's ever been, is at 40 degrees. They declared a public health emergency and they went and smashed the windows, 8 windows. They cracked, not smashed, very carefully cracked these windows. They were then taken to court 2 years later, 2024, and there was they all, they risked their livelihoods, their professions, they risked imprisonment, and they went to court, and the jury could not come to a decision. And at that point, the Crown said, we want to go again. So these poor people had waited 2 years, then had to have another 2 years of waiting, and for another court case. Would they go to prison? Would they be would they lose their jobs? Anyway, they went. We did a show about the first trial. It was a verbatim show, which means everything in the show is only what was said in court. And it was, so I did that, and that felt really, with Ian Rickson was the director.
And is that now are you building that out as a film?
Well, we are. We're looking to do that again, because it just sort of sold out. We weren't allowed to advertise it because it was really beyond the absolute bare minimum, because it was a case that was live, because the medics went back to court in just a few weeks ago. So now that case is resolved, we can now, look to putting the play on and having press and so. But I mean, it's just the words that the medics say are so extraordinary. That was what was so incredibly powerful about it. And we just wanted to amplify their words, and so that was the latest thing that.
Sorry, what was that called? Just for
it was called In Case of Emergency.
In case of emergency.
Because breaking glass in an emergency, you break glass because. To escape from a train, or to raise an alarm, or to drag a child out of a burning house, you break glass. So that's the symbolism of why they broke the glass cracked the glass at JP Morgan. Yeah, and that's hopefully coming back. I mean, we're in talks at the moment, but.
Have I got an exclusive there from?
Yes.
I love this. I have to say when I listen to you, I'm loving chatting to you. I feel a bit like, do you remember in Notting Hill, just talking about bringing it down a level to some trashy cinema, when Hugh Grant turns up to interview Julia Roberts, and he's sneaked in, he's not from Time Out, he's from Horse and Hound. and he says something like, so how many horses did that have in it then? I feel a bit like Hugh Grant sitting here. Actually, oh no, I can't believe I've said that. I'm now going to get pilloried, because anybody who is...
I will get pilloried for the Julia Roberts, so don't worry.
I'm so not Hugh Grant. But listen, back to the serious point of this. So I absolutely love what you're doing at this space, because I think anybody who has got a voice, a channel, a profile, who can, raise awareness, make some noise, and bring people in. My challenge always, as I think about these things, is, do you end up preaching to the converted? And I talked to a musician about this a few months ago, where he was talking about, writing kind of activist songs and stuff. And he said, the problem is that the only people that turn up to activist gigs are people who already are activists. So how do you kind of get that balance between writing something that will draw in an audience to then educate them, as opposed to drawing in the already educated or informed?
I mean, it's really interesting, because I considered myself an activist, but I listened to the words of the doctors and psychiatrists that were the people and the consultants that had broken those windows. And I was really still kind of sort of enthralled and also educated. But also, for example, there were people, the audience it was quite interesting, actually. Just friends came that aren't activists, and the actors said, I had friends coming in who, they're really not that way inclined. And one of the actors said, quite a few of the actors said, this has changed my life doing it. And an interest, so there's a way in which it's really hard to second guess an audience. And I think maybe, the Purcell Room's a play, got really fantastic actors in it, got Ian Ricks. Do you know what I mean? I think people just looked at it and thought, oh, this might be interesting. I mean, above and beyond the fact that they're doctors doing this. Why would a group of as one of the medics says in the piece, I bet you're wondering why a group of respectable professional doctors have gone on this hot day to smash the windows of JP Morgan, break, crack. I mustn't say use the word smash. That was the prosecution's language. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't feel that it was necessary. And I think, like, there was that wonderful play Kyoto that was on at the, not my play, obviously, at the Soho Theatre in the big one. And that, I think that just got a massive audience because it was good theatre. I think and I just feel this about the opera as well. Like, I don't think it was just acted. There were just people that wanted to be involved in an opera at Glyndebourne. But by the end, they bought a little piece of forest, which they dedicated to. They all went and had a whip round in the whole of the community of this, and they bought a little piece of forest and called it that they're planting, and they're calling it Uprising Forest. So it's sort of changed. I think it's sort of much more dynamic than that. That the people involved, that their friends and family, it has ripples. It's like throwing a stone in a pond. It's not quite so. Oh, it's just activists. It's not so cut and dried as that.
No, and I think you're spot on because I think the thing is when things become a bit preachy, people get turned off, right?
Yeah,
I sense. And also, I think to your point, what we don't want to, I mean, I don't know, we don't necessarily want to create a world that's full of activists. What we want to do is to kind of inform and educate and make people think about things. And I always think when we chatted Monday, and actually, when I was talking to Tom Hingley last week, the singer, he said, sometimes I go front of mic, off kind of mic, when I'm singing, and it might be 5,000 people in that gig, and maybe only 8 people can hear me after that. And I think it's the ripple effect, isn't it? If you educate 1, if you educate 10, if that's all that's listening, then that will ripple out, without it being, I need to convert 5,000 people right now, and
yeah,
then they need to go and march. That's
yes,
not
yes,
necessarily the answer because that actually inevitably can become counterproductive as well.
yeah. I totally agree. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And
Agree with that.
I mean, but you have talked about and you've written about peasants' revolts and things like uprising and stuff like that as well, haven't you? So and that is a kind of like almost a enough is enough type event,
Yeah,
which is quite different from that ripple effect.
yes. I mean, yeah. I think art is always better when it's imaginative and it allows for emotional engagement and it gives room for people to think and it's not preachy like you said. And it should, I mean, it is entertainment as well on one kind of level. So
But I love this. We're coming to the end of our time, but you've used the word there that I think going right back to the start, entertainment. And I have this, my wife's a Lambda teacher and a Lambda examiner, and she does her thing and she acts and stuff like this. And I'm a little bit more binary in things. Whatever I go and see, whether it's music, sport, theatre, anything like that, at the end of the day, I want to come out entertained. I want to be moved. Yeah. And I think as we educate and inform, that's such a big part of it. Ultimately, we still want to entertain and be
yeah,
entertained when we go and
absolutely.
see things.
Of course. Otherwise we won't go.
And the movement will die. What still interests you, just to close, what still interests you and excites you about theatre and what's potentially next for April De Angelis?
I mean, there's some wonderful new writers coming through. I mean, I've seen some great new work, over the last couple of years, and that is always thrilling. So it's always great to go to. I mean, I still like going to the theatre, seeing fabulous actors and young actors and brilliant new writing. I mean, it's always a thrill. So that's good. I mean, as for me personally, I mean, I, it's always a bit of a mystery, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I have just written a play. I'm just waiting to hear back. It's like it is a history. It's a kind of history. I don't know if I spoke to you about it, but it's a kind of history. But it's kind of taking a literary figure and kind of imagining a history for them that's kind of a bit political and a bit sort of wild. I don't know. I mean, and I don't actually know. I just have to keep. I just want to. I don't want to retire yet. That's all I know. But who knows? Maybe it's my time. I just have to, you have to kind of just be patient and see if you get a really good idea. And while that, until that time, you just have to keep hoping that you're going to get a good idea.
Keep the
That's
faith.
me.
Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. Why not?
Oh, don't retire. Keep writing.
Yes.
Keep doing your
I'm sure I
thing.
won't retire. No, I've just written a big play. I'm just like probably I'm probably like, oh my God, thank God I haven't got to do that anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I'll have a couple of weeks off now, and then another idea comes up. You think, oh no, or a phone call comes in. You're on. That's it. You're on. Get your old typewriter out.
Oh yeah, I
April,
know.
April, listen, thank you so much for being on this. I'm absolutely delighted. It's been a real pleasure, and genuinely, it's fascinating to hear about the craft behind your work, and that sort of people they talk about arcs these days, don't they? And going through all those different phases and stuff that's inspired you. And actually some genuinely important stuff as well around, climate and sustainability, which is such a big part of what I do, and diversity, equality. There's so many big issues out there, and using your voice and your channel and your writing to raise awareness is just super. Really appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's been brilliant talking to you, and thank you.
It's been a pleasure. We'll talk again soon. And thank
Okay.
you. And shout out to our mutual, wonderful, pint-sized bombshell of a friend, Nikki Allpress, for bringing us together. Like love her dearly. And she's, of course, doing all her stuff up in the West End at the moment as well, up in town.